Today we're sitting with Dr. Mignonne Mary in the Old Metairie borough of New Orleans, actually the neighborhood that I grew up in, at her respite, I should call it, the Remedy Room. And Dr. Mary, just for a little bit of background information, is an innovative wellness practitioner, a national leader in that field, working on disease prevention, alternative medicine. I say it's alternative, it shouldn't be, but it's nutritional medicine, and infusion therapy, just to give a little bit. But we're here today with Dr. Mary in her place, along with my mother, who's one of our clients, client number one actually, and one of Dr. Mary's patients, to talk about homeopathic therapy, nutritional medicine, innovative wellness, and everything else that encompasses what we try to impress upon people, and actually what Dr. Mary serves a community amongst doing. So without further ado, Dr. Mignonne Mary, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for being here to promote people healing themselves and getting involved in their health. And it's been a pleasure to take care of your mom and have a patient who is ready and willing to change and do, I'd say, the work, but it's not really work. It's just moving back towards nature and focusing on the self. But in our practice, we spend a lot of time talking about preventive medicine, but also the things that you can do to live your best life, because it's about quality of life, right? And so we start with, what are they eating? And I know that's a huge topic for you guys, and we can talk about that in a little bit. But I've been promoting a ketogenic diet and a ketogenic lifestyle for my entire practice. Living in New Orleans and having patients in New Orleans, it's a difficult thing, as you guys know. This is like the food mecca and obviously the drinking mecca. And a lot of times I say, like, it's probably the highest capita of functional alcoholics that exist.
There's the per capita.
So it's difficult to teach the ketogenic diet and have people maintain it. And so in my practice in these years, I've grown to start teaching about fasting. And it's really not teaching, it's reminding people, right? Because inherently we all know how to fast. And with that, it feels like I've gotten a lot of not only success, but longevity with their success. The patients are able to use this tool that they know how to do from life, right? And whether it's one day on, one day off, or I teach them how to do a block fast where they get to 4 or 5 days, at that point it ends up being more of a mental challenge than a physical challenge because they're in ketosis. But the promotion of ketogenic diet for health, for metabolic health, brain health, cancer, of course, and we see a lot of that. Weight loss is the cherry on top. So it's anti-inflammatory. And I think the approach you're taking is obviously an extreme that helps people to heal themselves without using medication. And the world is our oyster when people start to have the knowledge and understand the science. So then we start talking about sleep, because without sleep, none of it matters. And so it's number one complaint for a lot of women, especially as their hormones are becoming unbalanced, the lack of progesterone and over estrogen, as you know, with all the toxins. And then we talk about bowel movements, and
we do too.
Yeah, we're not poop afraid here. We talk about poop. We get a lot of bragging about the poop.
Oh yeah.
And then we talk about parasites and toxins. I would say a large portion of what's going on in society today is the lack of the ability to adapt to what we've been inundated with. We really don't have the liberty of safe water and air and even food at this point. And ask anyone who travels to Europe and comes back to America to see the difference in the way they feel. And it doesn't mean that Europe's perfect. It just means that they have a lot more regulations on what they allow their people to eat. So we deal with a lot of toxins. And on that note, we talk about things that probably are not talked about in regular doctor's offices, which is the emotional toxins. So I mentioned to you there was a car accident yesterday again, and I feel like the emotional body is something that medicine is avoiding and ignoring, and it's impossible to ignore the energetic body. So my practice, on top of being already a little bit different than the rest of most conventional medicine, is even moving further towards more energy medicine and focusing on light and vibration and sound, which goes together with bringing people back to nature, you know, grounding and sun gazing and being out in the sun. And I don't want to say everything that we've told you is wrong, but it does seem that there's been a lot of misinformation given in regards to how to stay healthy. And I feel strongly that the closer we go back to nature, the closer we go back to what God has given us, the better off we will be. And in the simplest, most natural way, right? So we push our patients to eat one ingredient items as much as possible, right? Staying on the outside of the aisles of the grocery store. Eating organic when you can. And a lot of my physician friends they don't mock me, but they're like, Mignonne, that doesn't matter. Okay, organic is just as poison. And I said, well, it's less poison. We're going to do anything and everything we can to remove any of the things that are blocking the body from doing what it naturally can do. And if we all had a clean liver, if we didn't have all these toxins, the body actually is amazing and knows how to fix itself. We don't have to instruct it. And so after that, we talk about, so what was that? Eat, sleep, poop. We talk about sex. I think that's also a topic that's not discussed. And it's all about energy and joie de vivre and releasing oxytocin and relaxing the body. So the vagus nerve is something that I think has become a hot topic for all of us, and it needs to be.
Contrast therapy for sure.
Right? So sex, then we talk about movement and exercise. We talk about high intensity interval training. We talk about weight training. I often push my patients to start lifting weights over cardio because you can make weight training a cardiac event versus just walking. And so again, all this information, and it doesn't mean not to walk. The walk is more of like a stress relief, and the steps are there to get your lymphatics moving. And so I'm sure in the next year or two we'll be talking about.
Sounds familiar, Mom?
Sound familiar? Yeah, we're all on the same page. So and then we talk about spirituality, and we talk about meditation and reflection and really stopping and pausing and going to that space where there's nothing, no thoughts, and removing the static so that you can go inside, because all the chemicals, all the things that we need in life are in this universe, in this body. And we've been taught to go outside of ourselves and look outside. Even to me, like, I don't have the answer. I'm just pointing people in the direction. They try to give me credit. It has nothing to do with me. I'm just saying this way, that way, go here. And so I really love what I do because we get results and we have patients who are wanting change. But it's a two-way relationship. Like, I work with my patient to find where they are, try to meet them where they are. And that's taken me some time, Jake. Like, for a while, I refused to see people if they didn't want to do the detox. If they didn't want to, I'm like, okay, I'm glad you're feeling better, because I have to get them feeling a little bit better so that they can participate, right? If you try to detox somebody and they don't have any energy, it's just not going to work. I think what I love about what we're doing is that people like you who are educating the public, it's going to have to take a groundswell from the bottom up. It's not ever going to come from the top down. Yeah. And it's just going to be too slow even if it does. And so we have so many people that need help. And obviously obesity is the pandemic. Obesity is the scourge, and poisonous food and toxic thoughts. And, I think that we can make a massive change by letting people know that these small baby steps that they can take every day can make their lives so much richer, so much more just full. And isn't that the goal, right? To be with your family, to have community, to be together and enjoy this earth. I mean, that's why we're here, to have this experience. Well, first, I focus on sleep first, because after all, if you're not charging at night, you're not going to be able to listen to what I have to say. So I focus on sleep. I talk a lot about magnesium and the use of magnesium. There are patients who are buying grounding mats and things like that. We start the day with looking at the sun. It starts with light, and it starts with getting your eyes exposed to the sun, taking your glasses off, moving the contacts, getting outside the window. Because a lot of them say, yeah, I look at the sun while I'm drinking my coffee at the kitchen table. And I'm like, no, that's not good enough. So watching the sunrise could be one of the most valuable things that you do. And that's also a push for a lot of people. They're not up that early, but it's a start. Grounding, putting their feet in the earth. These are the simple things they can start with, and their breath. I mean, your breath is something that you're born with. It's with you till you die. It's taking a record of everything that happens from the moment you start. And so remembering your breath, focusing on your breath is a form of meditation. So that's the first three things that I would have them do. Then beginning the day with water, adding some salt to the water. We've been told to stay away from salt all these years. And I want to remind you, this is what I tell my patients, like, you never watch one of these Westerns. What's the first thing that the horse does when they come in? They give them water and salt, So we need the salt for the charge. We're electric beings, And it's not just about the hydration, it's about the electrolytes. Right. And so starting with salt water will help the adrenals and will actually reduce your sugar cravings for these patients who are struggling with sugar desires, which, I think the world has helped us to become more addicted to, right? They spend millions of dollars getting us addicted to these delicious foods that are super poisonous. And I just saw really, it's not shocking, it's obvious, but you see the light up of the brain of the two areas that light up with sugar versus cocaine. And they have the studies with the rats that show that they pick the sugar over the cocaine. So it shows you how addictive it is. And so as we grow in our knowledge, maybe in the past when there was Banting diet and then ketogenic diet, Atkins got, beat up about all the fat that he was promoting. Now we know, okay, there's good fat, there's bad fat. So as we grow and progress, now we're realizing it's not just the sugar that's bad, it's the hydrogenated oil, it's the fake seed oils and the things that are crushing our system. Again, this is about managing toxins, and it's about removing the things that are keeping the body from doing what it needs to do. So mitochondrial function is another big topic that people are stepping into and realizing that everything boils down to the mitochondria, which is this little battery pack in our cells. And if that's not functioning, then the rest of the cells can't do their job. And so the flow is off, right? Back to energy. So we focus on water, salt, grounding, breath work, sleeping, and then I start talking about the diet. And we talk about removing the foods that are inflaming, which is obviously a lot of the carbohydrates. We do not need carbohydrates to live. They are not essential nutrients. We've been told that we need them, but I think that
Can you say that one more time?
We do not need carbohydrates to live. Your liver can make sugar. Your liver will protect you. Your body can make sugar as it needs. And we do need protein. And, there's debate about vegetables here. So I think
needs versus wants.
Here's what I'll say. Everyone is different. God made us all beautifully different. And I think, there is no one diet for everyone. I have certainly tried on a carnivore diet at least 4 times. I've never felt better. I've stopped it from, the reasoning is mostly from a social situation of just my family and being here, but I try to stay mostly ketogenic and I dip in and out. What my goals are is to make people metabolically flexible, to make it so that they can step in and out of ketosis using what the body has for storage, and that's why we have this fat on our body, to be used for a rainy day when we don't have the resources. And so I think, like I said, I want to just compliment you again because you're helping people to see that they can do it, that it's, is it hard? It's all in how you look at it. It's all perspective, right? It depends on what your lifestyle is like. It's, for me, a way for people to not have to take drugs. So what my goal is, even though I'm an MD, I practice like an ND. I want people to be able to use what God gave us and use nature to heal. And so when that fails, I do have the power of the prescription. I will write a prescription and I can augment and I can speed things along. But my ultimate goal is to get you off the prescriptions and to have you living life without all of that. And I'm still providing minerals. I'm still going to promote that people need vitamin C because we don't make it. And it's probably the most anti-inflammatory agent that we have that I think is a gift from God that somehow through nature we just stopped making it. But all the other animals make it. But it's learned behavior and it's learned, and that's generations, right? That's and I'm sure you guys know the work of Tim Noakes, and he ripped out the middle of his book. That's the best,
South
right?
Africa goat, yeah.
I think I love that people are willing to open their mind to change, to say, wait, let me look at this. And I would say a large portion of my mentors, so I attend a lot of low-carb conferences, a lot of metabolic health practitioners, the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners, they're promoting the use of what they call therapeutic carb restriction. And so they're working with people to show them that the lower you go, the lower the blood sugar. And for me, it's about hormonal control. And so insulin's the name of the game and inflammation's the name of the game, So throughout medicine, in the 20 plus years I've practiced, the focus has been cholesterol. And it's one marker. And it's not even really, to me, I think the most important, because we can do other non-invasive testing like a coronary artery calcium score and or a carotid intima media thickness, which is an ultrasound to look at the bifurcation of the carotid and see if there's deposition of plaque there. But now, after 100 years, there's finally going to be a new, it's like a additional, I can't think of the right words, but
Biomarker
it's an
testing.
upgrade to an EKG. We haven't had an upgrade to an EKG in 100 years.
Wow.
So it's called a multifunctional cardiogram, and it's going to be able to give you all of that information and then some in one non-invasive test. And so
C-score too.
yeah, it's going to give
cool.
it's incredible. And so Dr. Sam Fillingain is who introduced me to it, and he's also pro ketogenic diet. So to be able to look at people's heart without having to put them at risk, right? Any and everything we can do to not harm you, to not irradiate you, to not stick you, to not potentially hurt you in looking for things is going to be what we're doing. So we offer testing from a company called Grail that's called from Galeri, it's called Grail. That's a blood marker to check for 50 different blood cancers and different tests that we can't even screen for. So any way we can screen and any way we can look for things non-invasively is going to be the way to go, because that way, and hopefully you can make it available to everyone. And my ultimate goal is when I have a patient attend my program, it's like a mini residency in essence. I want them to know everything that I know. And so I'm sharing books to read. Like I promote them to read James Nestor's Breath. I want them to understand about mouth taping.
And deep. Oh
yeah,
God, love
I'm
Nestor.
teaching them about the mouth. Oh, that's the other thing we talk about. We talk about, have you had any root canals? But more importantly, I told you I just had dental surgery. I had a tooth knocked out playing volleyball in high school. So I knew that this root canal needed to come out, because if you look at the work of Weston A. Price, that foundation has a lot of information to share that says that all root canals are infected. And so here we are trying to save a dead tooth, a dead body part, and leave it in the body. Nowhere else in medicine. If you have a gangrenous toe or a gangrenous thumb, we cut it off.
Yeah.
That's sucking energy from the body. And so root canals are a funny thing. It's very similar to mercury. How do we get away with putting something in the mouth so close to the brain that we know it's toxic? If I drop a thermometer on the hospital floor, we have to call the hazmat team. But I can put this in your teeth right next to your brain. So the toxic exposure to metals used to be the hot topic at the environmental conferences that I attend. Heavy metals was like, that's the past 20 years. Now the environmental toxins with not only glyphosate, but all the bisphenol and all the plastics, we're in trouble, y'all. It's surpassing the damage that the heavy metals are causing. So what heavy metals do, plus the combination of glyphosate, which is on a lot of the greens, is that it widens the gap and the tight junctions of the gut. So leaky gut or permeability, and we know that is a direct cause of why people are having autoimmune conditions and certainly a lot of illnesses. Is the gut is a wreck, and the gut is the brain. The gut is what holds everything, our immune system, our neurotransmitters, and so it's really this central command. And so healing the gut by changing the diet changes the brain, changes the metabolism, changes the hormones, changes your life.
It's like, it's so funny listening to you, because I'm just a kid that's like read a bunch of books and become obsessive over a mission to try to save my life and the lives of my family, right? And found this is kind of working, this is kind of working, this is kind of working. But my theory to like optimal health, what I think is the holy trinity to optimal health, there's a pie chart, I'm going to use a graphic right now between us, the guys will throw it up later. 90% prioritization towards detoxification, 9% towards nutrition, 1% towards exercise. Meaning, I believe that the single most effective thing we can do as human beings in regards to our health is controlling what we put into our mouths. Now, people hear that and they think consumption automatically, whereas much more important to me is omission, right? Controlling what we put into our mouths. Well, what else does that mean? It means what's not coming in, not just what is coming in, but much more about what's not. And to your point about the environment, the surroundings, and spirituality, what's in the eyes, what's in the ears, what's in the nose, what's in everywhere, the people you hang out with, the places you go, where you spend your time, how you spend your time. So 90% of it is actually about doing less in a preventative sense, to be proactive, before thinking, okay, what do I have to do? What do I have to eat? No. I'm actually trying to get you to do less, meaning why? The 4 pillars of life: eating, breathing, sleeping, to your point, and drinking. If you attack any one of those, maybe not say attack, if you pull any one of those levers in a radical sense, you're going to get a radical response. Take away someone's sleep for a considerable amount of time. Whew.
Torture,
It's a great way to torture someone, right? It's awesome in the military. We love that. Take away someone's hydration. It can be very fatiguing, but also can be tremendously profound and beneficial. I've got terminal 4, cancer of some kind.
Yeah.
Great, no more chemotherapy, 14-day dry fast.
Dry fasting, yeah.
Let's see how that comes out.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I couldn't do that. You don't want to do it.
Right.
You know it's going to be difficult, but like you want to kill off every disease in your body, we're going to drop the atomic bomb and call it a dry fast.
Right.
But back to that, we take away breath. You mentioned James Nestor. Take away breathing for a while. What's going to happen? Like you can induce hypoxia and actually find a regeneration of mitochondria and find that stimulation of the vagus nerve, right? Like using contrast therapy to do that. And then, of course, the last one with the sleep, or not the sleep, eating, drinking, eating, right? Now, again,
and
back to
not
that,
eating. Yeah.
and not eating.
Yeah.
So it's like any one of those levers,
Yeah.
which requires nothing of us to do. We don't have to go to Bali and touch into the surf. We don't have to go to Peru and drink ayahuasca. That's great.
Yeah.
But you can literally do nothing. And I think that's a hard thing for people to see with me and with us, in the sense that what workout is he going to put me through? What kind of crazy regimen are these Ironman trainers going to do to me? It's like she was on race 104 since 2016 of Ironman marathons and ultra marathons. 104 races since 2016.
That's incredible.
Okay?
That's really incredible.
We started talking, and I was like, look, if we're going to do this, I need you to feel what I feel. And the only way you're going to do it is like, you got to drink the poison, so to speak, right? And so when someone's like, you know, how do you have the audacity to open up the hood of the Ferrari that's got 106, 5 races, whatever, since 2016 and go like, all right, this is a great machine. I'm not going to mess it up because it's built perfectly in Modena, but like, I know I can squeeze a few more BPH out of this thing, BHP out of this thing,
Nice.
for sure. And she's like, all right, I'll bite, like pun intended, I'll bite. And like, that's another proven place, you know, and also a woman that's dealing with hormonal changes, that has to deal with hormonal changes, that's going to have a hormonal response to that, but is having positive results as opposed to adverse. Thought they would be negative, but they've been positive. So to dispel rumors, and why I think it's important for me to be here, again, with the three of y'all, is me saying it is one thing.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, great, it works for you. You're single, you no dependence, you're a guy, blah, 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 like all these things.
Yeah.
Like, what about mothers, women, athletes, otherwise? Like, tell me how it works in our lives. Mothers who have had children, who have grandchildren.
Well, I can tell you how it works in my life. Number one, I'm the mother of the little boy who started reading books at age 2 and continued to being a prolific reader, and now is a grown man. And we have role reversal because now he teaches me and has been teaching me for several years.
Yeah.
And, you know, Rhonda, you asked a good question. How do we start? Well, it depends on who we are in life. So I'm 71 years old, and I want to talk to women who are 10 years younger or 10 years older. And what happened with Dr. Mary and myself is so many things that she talked about, like check, 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 check. All I had to do was walk in the door, and I thank my lucky stars every day. And every time I see Dr. Mary, I just fall more in love with her because of who she is. Everything she just told you is what she tells me and tells everybody else and shares it. So in my world, I'm a baby boomer, and our medical practices were based on fear, and they were based on dependency. And then I come along and I have to learn to become independent. I was given a death sentence 5 years ago by my medical doctor, and I share with Dr. Mary. He diagnosed me with osteoporosis, and it was severe, and he said, it's the worst that I've ever seen in my entire practice, and you have a year to live. And after he said that, I broke down. I didn't hear anything anymore. I had a little bit of depression for about 10 days, and then I got myself back up because I am Jake's mother.
Yes.
And I found a trainer, and he said, that is not going to happen. I said, thank you. And he started training me like he would train a little old lady, but he knew what he was doing. And then eventually I started to pay attention and to obey what Jacob was already learning and sharing with me by practice through what he did, right? And then one day, lo and behold, a few years later, about 3 years later, my friends in New Orleans brought me here, Tito and Connie, thanks to them. Opened the door, I saw the chairs. I fell in love with the chairs. And then they put me in a chair, and this chair reclines, by the way. It's very nice. And I had IV therapy and tea, and we talked. And my sister came, and Tito came, and Connie came, and I came. And when I met Dr. Mary, I knew. Because what happens for me, anyway, is that the old saying about when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And God has a destiny for us.
Right.
And I'm very spiritual, and I believe in all that. And speaking of energy, the energy brought me here. Her energy, my energy. Her love for people. I know there are 3 principles that you go by that your dad taught you. Do you mind sharing that?
Yes, so you have to be affable, available, and able.
Oof.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened with me. So I came from a doctor who looked down at me and did not regard me as an important human being. I've always told Jake that my life is our life.
Yes.
I'm still the mom, and I'm still important in their lives, and that's what I want to be. And I feel that there are women who are older than myself or in my age group who are disregarded, oftentimes by doctors.
Right.
Through no fault of their own. I love my doctor, but he is in his own little square box, and that's where he's going to be. To this day, he talks to me and admonishes me for eating meat and drinking milk and not eating vegetables.
I think again, it's just learned behavior, and I don't blame them. It's just what they know.
Yes.
And so they're not able to take the blinders off and look, and it's impossible to not acknowledge what's going on with this movement. And they just had the first Carnivore Summit. I don't know if you had a chance to watch that, and I think it's going to grow. I mean, the ketogenic movement has grown, and although, certainly there's been the viral fads and people are kind of, I don't want to say bastardizing, but changing it up to where they're pushing a lot of like fake foods, bars and things like that. But
Yep.
I think if you stick to real food, back to the point of making it so that you're metabolically flexible, showing you what it's like to not have to have all those carbohydrates and have all that inflammation, because it is about inflammation and it's about controlling insulin like we talked about. But with carnivore is just an extreme view of it, and the majority of the doctors that I follow, I have a lot of mentors that I meet at these conferences and I stay friends with, and we keep up to date.
So,
They will try on keto, they'll try on carnivore, and then they stay, and they don't come back. So when enough of your mentors start moving towards that direction, you look and you watch. And then I have patients who have tried it on with me, without me, and the results are incredible. And to say that it's for everybody, and maybe it's not. No, I don't think there's one thing for everyone. But I think we try on clothes, we try on cars, we try on houses. I think it's worth trying on. And I think that the only issue I have is that people try to put their pinky toe in. You got to go all in.
Yes.
You're going to either do this or you're
Yes.
not, and you need to prepare.
Yes.
And mentally, you need to prepare. That it might be a little difficult. It's different. It's not hard. It's different. And I think preparation is the key.
how do you package this marketably, friendly, but also sternly to someone? And to me, the diet is a Trojan horse. And I say that to everybody. Because, and honestly, this would be the hardest thing you've ever done in your life. And she was like, and many people are like, are you sure? Because to me, it is a disguised version of the ultimate unplug, right? So is it because so much to me that I believe that carnivore or a carnivore diet is the hill I'm going to die on to say that this is what life is about? No. To me, it's more about the combativeness against the system that it represents on the other side. So like that to me is the way that gets you into that level of awareness where you go, my God, how have I been able to do so much with so little coming in, and by omitting all these other things, and like that social awkwardness that you have to deal with, right? Of where am I going to go? What are other people doing? It just brings this whole new level of awareness, mindfulness to everything that you eat, to everything that comes into your body for that matter. And I don't think, again, back to those levers, there's no other way to radically get you to be aware of how many other places and ways you're being warped, sucked, and drained, as opposed to when you remove these things and start to have all these new sensations turn on. I equate it to being a bouncer at a nightclub. Like I used to work at a bar. When it's just Dr. Mary coming in, it's great. My job is easy. I don't even have to look. I can just wave her past the velvet ropes. She doesn't even drink anymore. She just likes to sit on the sofas because she likes our white leather reclining chairs, and she watches TV. Hey, Dr. Mary, do you mind if we like paint the walls while you're in here, and we got to redo the floors? We're going to let some of the staff go home. It's great when you're here.
Right.
But when Dr. Mary shows up with Jake and Rhonda and Elizabeth, and Jake is like really messed up, they're not in dress code.
Right.
My mother's trying to steal things off the bar. It's a mess. We got to call in extra staff, the fire department because I lit the bathroom on fire last week, police because I'm getting in fights. My mother keeps trying to steal everything. The place is a mess. That is our bodies, to me, when this constant state of variables just is continuously coming in. All we're doing is reacting and putting out fires left and right. Clean the floor. We need more stuff. Call in the backup, blah, 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 as opposed to when it's just Dr. Mary. And when you can get it down to that singular source of sustenance, a la breast milk. Why does breast milk exist? It is a miracle of mammalian evolution because it gives our little babies everything they need from that single individual source that's immediately utilized. It's minimally storaged, and the discard is weird. When Juliana, my brother's daughter, was born, I was like, That's it?
Yeah.
Like with her poops, right?
Yeah.
And my mother's like, yeah, she's beautiful. I was like, I mean, she's beautiful, but I don't think she's the golden child, you know, of like all of a sudden. And that was my first voila of like, my God, it's because she's processing and utilizing all of it.
Yeah.
Now back to bowel movements, like I've gone up to 13 days on a strict carnivore without a bowel movement. And people are like, that's crazy.
You're
Your
assimilating,
colon.
you're taking
And I'm like,
everything from
why
it.
would, yeah, like I have nothing to pass.
Yeah.
Everything's being absorbed. But back to that, to the infant, what's the most important part about breast milk is that it duresses or stresses the body the least.
Yeah, it has
Why?
high fat content too. They're in
Right.
ketosis, babies.
And
in
it's
ketosis.
not plant-based. I mean,
Yeah.
that's as carnivore as it gets, right?
Yeah.
From day one. But because it stresses the body the least, how can we do that as adults?
Mm-hmm.
Reduce the variables, maximize the absorption and the bioavailability, minimize the storage, the discard and the stress and the minimal duress. It's like, to me, that is the way.
Right.
Again, through that reduction of variables. And then now it's just Dr. Mary, come on in. We're going to clean this whole place up. And it's what I say, it's not the diet. It's your body.
It's
This
the
is just the
lesson.
vessel that permits your body to become that amazing, perfectly cleaning house machine
Yeah.
of autophagy and just, you know, internal homeostasis that wouldn't happen otherwise.
You're quoting our core values without even knowing it, but live it to lead it is one of our core values. And we just actually had a breathwork session prior to a cold dip session that we
Nice.
had. And when we move to our new location, we'll be doing cold dip and ozone saunas and hot cold therapy, red light therapy, adding some modalities to help people augment their energy level so that they can attend and do these things. But it's important, and I think when your core team is doing the things that you're asking your patients to do, it shows the patient that they can do it too, right? I mean, I don't think that here's the difference. When people come to work with me, it isn't just a job. I would say that every day, that this isn't a job for me. This is just a place where I come to be with people and to talk to them and to educate them. It doesn't feel like work. And then if it starts to feel like work, then maybe you need to get another job, because that's not what it's about. But I do encourage my staff to fast and to move towards a ketogenic lifestyle, towards doing these things like grounding, breath work, and cold dip, obviously. And they all did it. I mean, I have some videos. It's fun. And it takes more of us to show people, to say, like, you can do it too.
Right.
And I think that's the thing. People just, they have fear. And once you get them past that fear, then they can take the first steps. When the shit hits the fan, the first thing to go is your personal health, the things that actually are the best for you.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why do the things that matter the most, whether it's journaling or meditating or walking or even praying, just why do exercise for sure? But
One place in the world you're told to prioritize
Yeah.
yourself and your health.
Yeah.
It's on an airplane. In case of an emergency, mask your
Yeah, they
deposit
tell
from
you to
the
put yourself
ceiling
first,
above.
yeah.
Be sure to put on your mask first before offering assistance.
You're right.
The one place in the world, and we all acknowledge it, cool.
Yeah.
But thinking about that as a parent, like in that moment, God forbid, you have to look with nonverbal and just be like, just trust daddy on this one for a second. Every other time in your life, it's always going to be you first, of course, daddy's going to wait. But in this one moment, daddy's going to go first, okay? Because he knows if he doesn't do that, he's more of a detriment to himself and everyone else around him. But everywhere else in the world, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, the resources, the means, et cetera.
Well, I know for me and my upbringing, 'cause I grew up in Mexico and then went to school in Texas, and then I became a mother. And I duplicated what my mother did and what her mother did, and it was like we gave everything to our children.
Yeah.
So I'm the last. It would be my children, my household, my plants, the dog, everybody else, and then me. And that was forever, never, never, until they're gone. And all of a sudden they're gone. And they're succeeding and they're doing very well. And you're like, okay, time for me.
Yeah.
But for the average person like myself, who finds herself now in a quandary, and I have just a tad more inclination to go this way toward the Dr. Mary side than toward the side that gives you the prescription and the pills and the shots and makes it, because that's what people look at. I have friends who still take pills, and they look at their bottles, and that is their source of relief and of health. And then I look at what I'm doing and some of my friends are doing, and our source of relief and health is exercise, is what we're eating, it's mindful, all the things that you've talked about. And it takes a little bit of an effort to get past that, to let go of that bottle and to say, no, thank you, my friend. You served a purpose, but
Yeah.
it's time to let you go. It's very hard. Now, with Dr. Mary, I still get the feedback with the numbers. That data, that science that is there, it's a
Yeah.
fact. And we still look at numbers. It's not like I come in and she she does a visual read and says, oh, I see your aura and you're looking healthy. No, it's beyond that. And it's really deep I call it very deep analysis. My labs are wonderful. I like to look at them. I'm not afraid of the numbers.
Yeah.
They're used as a tool to teach me, to help me. On this side, they're used as something to scare me.
Yeah.
To put me down, to prevent me from learning on my own.
Right. That was the one lesson that I think I loved my dad taught. He said, I never treated a piece of paper. I always treated the patient. We're so obsessed with the numbers. And I agree, test, don't guess. That's a big theory that's going out now. For sure, it's important. But we're testing something that's like a skeleton of the labs of what people really need. We don't check vitamin D, we don't check magnesium, we don't check insulin.
Yep.
And we could prevent diabetes 10 years prior to ever having the person's sugars go crazy with checking the insulin. And it's educating and empowering people. That's another one of our core values, but giving you the knowledge so that now you can go and get the labs on your own, right? You know which ones are the most important and the markers to follow that are the inflammatory markers. And back to the cholesterol, I mean, we're so obsessed about this one number, but I think that God gave us cholesterol to help patch and repair the vessels. Here's the other lesson my dad taught me. Nature never gets it wrong. It never overestimates or underestimates. And so we're made perfectly whole. We're told we're broken when we come out, but we're perfect. And it's actually, we are the ones who are getting in the way, and the world and society and what they tell us, right? And so teaching people about cholesterol, the most important marker on cholesterol is the triglyceride to HDL ratio, and not the LDL. And there's now studies to prove that even those on the ketogenic diet that have elevated LDLs didn't have higher incidence of plaque development. And so let's get to the root of the problem. So my dad used to describe cholesterol as like the ambulance at the scene of the accident. We're talking about accidents. And so we remove all the ambulances, we're good. No, you can't just pull all the cholesterol. We've now made 5 other markets by giving people cholesterol medicine, which is, I think, another big wrong turn that has created more dementia, more Alzheimer's, more myalgia, more liver failure, more diabetes, more testosterone deficiency, right? We need cholesterol to create these sex hormones, and they're not just about sex. They're about balance. They're about moving metabolism and hormonal balance. And so teaching people how to read labs and know which labs are important and which part of the labs are important and why, and teaching them about the ratios gives them the power. And now with more people growing to say, I want to be in charge of my health, you can go get your labs at any of these other labs and order what you need. So I'm not trying to push people away from doctors, but I'm trying to help them to educate the doctor, because without us, without the community showing them, look, I can do this. They're coming in, they're losing the weight, they're feeling amazing, and the doctor is almost offended. I think it's an ego thing for sure, but
it's very egoic.
It's very...
and we laugh about it because like, Mom, you're not going to him anymore. We're gonna make sure you're just coming to Dr. Mary, and we'll make it a trip, quarterly, semi-annually, biannually, however
you travel
we have to do
a long way to see me.
to make it worth it.
I'm very grateful.
Well, because it works, and you respect me as a human being, as an adult in my age group, and my life goals actually match with your goals and the way you see people.
But doctor means teacher, but you guys are the teachers. You teach me, right? I've had to augment my practice and learn how to be a better person and be a better doctor because of my patients. And so I'm constantly learning. I mean, I'm a lifelong learner just like you. And I'm willing to say I'm wrong when I'll tell you, for many years, because I went to one of these obesity conferences that said you have to eat breakfast. First thing in the morning, you have to have 30 grams of protein. And so I was barking at people, you got to eat. They're like, I'm not hungry. I'm like, no, you have to. Study says. Same. And so we get so wrapped up in the numbers that, back to what my dad's trying to say, you forget about the patient who's sitting right here in front of you. And what works for one isn't going to necessarily work for the other. And I think we've moved so far away in trying to prove everything. This goes back to we can't prove what is love. Prove that God exists. It's that space between going to the black to the nothingness, where there's actually more, right? We're 99% nothing versus this 1% matter. And so the more I move towards energy, the more I move towards talking about the things that the other doctors aren't, the faster my patients are getting better. Because we're addressing the whole patient. We're talking about everything, not just one thing, and we're not just focused on cholesterol. And we're not working on fear. We work on hope. We work on the ability and the knowledge to know that you you can do this. Not only everyone can do this.
Yeah, my
Everyone
body
heal
can do it.
Your body can do it. It
My
knows
body can
how.
do it.
It knows
The
how.
most incredible, adaptable, malleable,
It's beautiful.
amazing machine ever created.
Yeah.
And I love what you're kind of saying about the perfection that is. I tell everyone, like, everything about you is perfect. Like nature without its mistakes. There are none. No matter with what disease or a bit of dementia or anything you might have been born with, luckily or otherwise,
Yeah.
there's still a perfect sequence within all that.
Yeah.
And many of those things can actually be overwritten because all they are is just a closure of circuits that need to be open or an opening of circuits that need to be closed. And when people hear me talk about ADHD, and I had a thing go really intensely viral about this, talking about how, to me, it's a nutrient deficiency or an abundance in regards to why that's happening, a chemical or hormonal imbalance.
For sure.
And people are like, no, I mean, it went hot.
Yeah.
No, it's a disease, blah, 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 and you should not say that to disclassify or otherwise be insensitive. And I was like, all I'm saying is, if you ate this way and didn't eat that way,
Yeah.
I'd almost put my life on it that your symptoms would improve. I had a kid that was 12 years old one time with me a few years ago, very far on the edge of the spectrum, completely antisocial, almost mute, would not interact with anyone, hardly even his parents. Started changing how he ate. All of a sudden becomes like Chatty Cathy.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere. Like,
Yeah.
did nothing but stopped eating mac and cheese out the box,
Yeah.
chicken nuggets, fried chicken nuggets, and goldfish, which was the majority of his
Right.
diet, and Coca-Cola.
Right.
Changed it to not even like a carnivore diet, but just, to a ketogenic style of pick it, pull it, and kill it.
Yeah.
I love to say that. Somebody wants something simple, like
Yeah.
if it breathes, walks, flies,
I
swims,
see the
crawls,
same.
is
Yeah.
bloodborne.
If you can shoot it in the sky,
Yeah,
get it out the ocean.
if you can
yeah.
pick it, pull it, or kill it,
Yeah.
right? And they're like, well, what about like chocolate? It's made out of, I'm like,
No,
don't,
it's multiple ingredients,
Right,
right.
don't delve into it. Like, if you can pick it, pull it, or kill it, start simple, right there.
Yeah. Yeah, metabolic health, I think that's the other thing we're coming to. So when I was finishing school, they were so excited about Watson and Crick, DNA, everything was going to be about genetics. And it's really more 85% lifestyle, and it has to do with the environment, and a lot of it has to do with our thoughts, which is what you're bringing to the table. The thought that I can do it, right?
Yeah.
It starts with the thought, and the thoughts, well, what's the cascade? And I think that when we're talking about changing our lifestyle, and getting away from the fear-based medicine.
And I told my mother, I was like, we don't go to her because she's a yes person. Like I remember the first day coming in here to your office, and I was like, just looking at the books that you had, and I was
Yeah.
like, we're in the right place, Mom. I complimented you on some of the authors, and I was like, oh, this is a classic. I got this at
Thank
home.
you.
Like, you have multiple copies of certain things.
Yeah.
But we talk about, the three things that we're all innately born with or should have a right to is happiness, health, and wealth. Defined however you like. What does happy mean to me? It's different to you. What is health to you? It's different to me. What is wealth to us? It's different to y'all, right?
Yeah.
But to be happy, healthy, and wealthy.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that, back to that miracle of evolution that we are, and embodying this thing that we get to rent for the duration of our lives. It's like it's almost a responsibility to have that. But, and we keep cueing faith on this. I think the most difficult thing that anyone will go through in this process or experience of self-actualization. I love Maslow and the
Yeah.
hierarchy of
Yeah.
needs, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about self-actualization,
Yeah.
right? To actually truly become the pinnacle of potentiality, which you have. And most of us don't ever see it because we are living in a deficit, and that's just the reality of it. We're poisoned by our conditioning since childhood,
And
all of us.
perceptions too, right?
And we have,
our thoughts.
whether you're, someone asks, what's the age range of your ideal client? If it breathes air, if it breathes majority of nitrogen, has blood, a pulse, walks
Yeah.
on 2 feet, that's a client. 5 years old to 105 years old. Well, would this work for my aging or my infant? Bring me the 3-year-old right now. Well, I'll leave it all with this, is that I say almost in I want to say melancholy or underwhelming way, I don't teach anything. Nothing I know or have found is novel. None of it. Mm-hmm. It's all innate. Mm-hmm. We're all born with this instinctively, and just because of our skin is freaking waterproof.
Yeah.
Like our vision is still inexplicable in a full sense, physiologically.
Yeah.
It's amazing. The hardest part about all of it is believing the feelings. Was that the most difficult part about all this is not going to be adhering to a diet, or subscribing to a certain type of rhetoric, or avoiding a place, or It's going to be trusting the feelings
Yeah.
that come to you of like, I feel so good, but I've been doing
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah.
But we've been taught to stay away from our intuition, right? This sixth sense. We've been taught that everything has to be in this physical presence, and that knowledge is coming. I've seen a growth of people who are aware now that has not been in my practice, and it's blooming. It's really fun.
Well, blooming is a good word.
Yeah.
And just want to say thank you so much, Dr. Mignonne Mary,
Really
for
appreciate
here at the
it.
Remedy Room.
Thank y'all. Thank
In
you.
And
New
thank
Orleans.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
For having us. And Mom, for being a good sport,
Well, she's
a
an
great
amazing
patient,
person.
a great client. Well, thank y'all so much. And for everybody else for joining